afternoon to everybody. Hello, kids. Hello, kids. So it's a lovely day today, and I want to welcome you with all these flowers that I actually saw when I was going for a walk in the morning. So it's been raining over here in the north, and post the showers, it's always a little sultry, but the evenings are very pleasant. The nights are better and cool. And so we are here today with our fourth session of storytelling with all of you. And I wanted to do a bear tale actually. I was reading about a bear who actually met some hikers in Mexico yesterday, and the bear, if you can see that in the news, it was flashing that the bear stands up actually and goes near this hiker, this girl who was climbing a hill, and he goes and smells her. So they say that when a bear comes near you, don't panic and don't run. Instead, just stand still and hold your breath as much as you can, so that the bear would think that this person is dead and it would run away. It would just leave you and go. Okay? So this is one rule that I'm telling you to save yourself from bears if you have an encounter. But I'm going to do a Nick Bland tale, The Very Hungry Bear. So there was once a bear who was very grumpy, really very angry and irritated. He was itchy and crabby because he'd been waiting since the break of day and he hadn't caught a single fish. He was grumpy, he was hungry, he hadn't had any food, and he was sitting by the riverside with his fishing rod, which you can see in the picture, which is probably not so clear. But he was sitting with his fishing rod and he was sitting since the break of day. And he was waiting and waiting and waiting, but he could not catch a single fish. All the single fish that he wanted to catch had just passed by. But suddenly his rod felt a little heavy, and he then cranked the handle round and round, and he yanked the rope, and he tried to pull out something, and he could make out that something was very heavy. It could be a big fish. It could also be more than one fish. Maybe two or three fish had, got caught. But it was not a fish. It was actually a polar bear that he had caught. This polar bear. Can you see this polar bear? The polar bears who live in the Arctic, isn't it? Don't you know? All right. So this polar bear actually came out with the fishing rod. And the bear looked at him and said, "What were you doing here, you silly?" So the polar bear said, "Actually, I was fishing here and I have got all the fish. Can't you see? It's a pile of fish." Said the bear grumpily. "That is why I have not been able to catch a single fish. You shouldn't be here. You should go back to your home in the Arctic. You're a polar bear. Don't you feel hot over here?" "Okay, now listen to me," said polar bear. "Let's stop fighting. I'll give you a fish and you find me a place to live, because I don't have any place to live." Now, the bear was interested because a fish to a bear is like a chocolate eclair. So when the bear heard that he's going to get a fish, he thought, "All right, let me just make my mind." Then the polar bear said, "Actually, I'll give you my whole pile of fish. Can't you see my whole pile of fish? I'll give you all of this, but you find me a place to live." But the bear asked him, "Why? What happened to your own home? You're a polar bear. You live in the icy areas in the Arctic. What's wrong over there?" So the polar bear cried and said, "My iceberg is shrinking and soon I'll be sinking. And My home is such a long way away. My iceberg is shrinking because the weather is becoming hotter and hotter. And so the ice is melting. Where should I live then? You have to find me a place to live. And trust me, I'll give you my whole pile of fish. Come on then. The bear was happy because he would get a complete pile of fish and he would not have to work for at least a month. So the bear and the polar bear started walking towards the bear's cave. The bear used to live in a forest in a cave. And he said, "Come with me." Now the polar bear was carrying his chunk of ice and it was very heavy. And he was walking, and the ice was melting, but he had to keep it close to him. And finally, when the bear took him to his cave, he said, "Now feel at home, polar bear. This is my home. You can relax here. You can stay here." But the polar bear shook his head and said, "No, I can't live here. The thing is, it's very hot and my ice is melting. And it's very difficult to live here." The bear said, "Then I have another idea. Do you want a cooler place to live?" So he called his friend the mouse. He said, "Hey, mouse, hey, there's one of my friends who's come from the Arctic and he finds he needs a cooler place to live. Would you help him, please?" "Of course, I live in a hole, and if he wants, he can come with me." "All right," said the bear. So the polar bear goes into the hole with the mouse. But the mouse's hole is very small, children, don't you know? It's really very small. So he says sorry to the mouse and says, "I'm so sorry, but I can't live here. My size is too big." Now again, the bear has to think of something. So he thinks of a plan and he says, "I think, why don't you go and live in a river?" "Ah, that's a good idea," said the polar bear. "I can live in the river actually. The water is cool, it's gurgling, and I saw a brook when we were coming. So let's go there." Now the polar bear goes into the river. But children, don't you know who is the king of the rivers in actually a forest? It is not the lion, it's not the fish. It's the crocodile, and the crocodile was snapping, and he could not let anybody stay there. So he drove him away. And he was happy and said, "Ha ha ha, that's my area. How dare he come here?" And whoosh, he went out of sight. The polar bear had a narrow escape. He came out and went to the bear again. "I'm so sorry to disturb you, but there's actually no place for me to live. Now that snapping croc, I actually did not like the attitude. I have to live somewhere else." The bear said, "All right, trees. They are cool. Come, let's climb one of the trees." The polar bear climbed the tree and he went up. And he was there on top of the tree, but he was allergic to leaves somehow. And he squinted his nose like this and went, "Achoo!" And as he sneezed, he just fell down with a thud. He goes back to the bear, and the bear says, "There is absolutely nothing that I can now do for you over here in the forest. But I will take you back to the Arctic and I will get you a home over there. And I will make sure that the weather is not so hot. So come follow me." So they went up to the mountains, went up and up. Because Arctic is not nearby. They had to walk a lot. And finally, after a few days, they reached the polar area where the polar bears lived. And he was so happy and said, "Oh my God, this is the place I really wanted." And the bear said, "Now wait, don't get excited. I have to first get you a home. So they started building an ice home for the polar bear with a white dome. And then when it was ready, the bear said finally, he heaved a sigh of relief and said, all right, now can I go and stay in the forest in my cave? Of course, my dear friend. Thank you so much. And they kissed each other and they hugged each other. And the polar bear said, would you like to take this pile of fish with you? But the bear said, no, there's a brook on the way and I'm going to fish. So he said bye bye to the polar bear, and the very hungry bear comes down to the forest, goes to the same stream, and stops by for a. And I told you a fish to a bear is like a chocolate. All right. And then finally that day, he finds a fish. Okay. If you like the story, give me a thumb and tell me something in the comments box that I'm going to ask Samapika to actually reflect that why did the polar bear come down from the Arctic? Why did he have to come down? What was wrong with the home of polar bear? Can I see in the comments so that I know if you've understood my story? Why did the polar bear come down? He should have been happy over there. There's this song that I did. My iceberg is shrinking and soon I'll be sinking and my home is such a long way away. So, all right, I'm going to read the comments later on because I cannot see any right now. But I go on to my next story, which is about our favorite Pip the rabbit and Posy the mouse. All right. And before that, I'm going to ask you something. How many of you tell your mom or tell your dad, okay, I see these comments that the ice was melting. Very nice. Very good. Okay. I think you all know about global warming. He is fat too, so that is why. Okay, he was fat and he was feeling very hot. Of course, the polar bears need a lot of, they need a very cold environment to stay in. Iceberg is shrinking and polar bear's home is sinking because of the heat. Very good, Deepika. Deepika Eti, very nice. I hope the kids also know about this, that it's because of the heat that we are generating due to the melting of the iceberg. Yes, the iceberg was melting, and so his home was sinking. And so he had to take a chunk of ice and come down to the forest to take help from the bear. All right, I go on to now Pip and Posy, the little puddle. And before I begin, I have to ask you, how many of you, when you have a nature's call, when you need to go and, you want to pee, how many of you actually tell your parents that, Mom, I need to pee, I am going, it's an emergency? And how many of you keep waiting for the last minute to pee? Don't do that. Okay? Don't you ever do that. Because when I was a little kid, I was like that. I used to wait till the last minute to actually pee, and sometimes I soiled my clothes, peed in my pants. Yes, but then I was very small. But don't share this secret with anyone. Okay? But I go on to the story, Pip and Posy. You see, Pip was very excited because he was going to his best friend Posy's house. And you know how much fun they always do. He was going for a sleepover. And it was a rainy day. And Pip came inside. Posy said, "Hello, Pip, how are you?" He was very happy. So Posy greeted and said, "Hello, Pip. Hi, Posy. I have come for a sleepover." "All right, but first, take off your raincoat and your wellies." "What are wellies, children?" the rain boots. So Pip took off his raincoat, hung it on a hook, then he took off his bellies, kept them on a side, and then they decided to play. But what shall we play, Posy? That was Pip's favorite question always. Posy said, let's take our little babies for a walk. Children, did they have any babies? No, they're stuffed toys. I told you, Posy loves her froggy and Pip has his piggy. So they took their toys for a walk in a pram and they were having a good time. What should we play next now? Pip said, let's make a toy train track. So they made a big toy train track and they made a town and then they moved their trains on those tracks. They were having a good time. After that, they played a lot of games like hide and seek, treasure hunt. They ate spaghetti. They also were thirsty, so they had a drink together. Now they pretended like lions. So they both started behaving like lions and started scaring each other. And while they were roaring, Pip forgot that he needed to have a wee. A wee is also peeing, okay? He forgot to have a wee, that he needed to go to the washroom and tickle, 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 tickle. He peed in his pants. He soiled, he dirtied his pants. And then he looked down and said, oops. And he thought that Posy is going to make fun of him. But Posy was a good girl. And she said, now look, Pip, that's all right. We all have accidents. And you just wait here. I'll go and get a mop and I'll clean the floor. So Posy went and got a mop and she cleaned the floor. But now Pip had to change his clothes. You know, children, when you pee in your clothes, you have to change your clothes. First, wash yourselves and then change your clothes. Posy said, I have a lot of dresses with me if you don't mind. Like, I have skirts and I have slacks and I have some frocks and those one pieces. Only if you're interested to wear, but I think you have no other choice, Pip. Of course, said Pip, I have no other choice. So, whatever you will give me, I'll wear. So, when Posy got her dress like this for Pip, Pip looked at the dress and he said, okay, I don't mind, I'll wear. So Pip wasn't a very fussy boy that I'm not going to wear a girl's dress. Pip was okay. His clothes were dirty. He had to change them. After the clothes were changed, they thought, now it's time to eat again. So they had a lot of cupcakes that Posy had baked before Pip had come. And then they played here and they played there. They played Pirates in Hospital. And then they played hide and seek again. And then they played with their cars again. They played with their farm toys. And finally, it was time for a bubbly, bubbly bath. So they both went into their bathtubs and had a nice, bubbly bath. Then it was time to sleep. So they came out, they had their dinner, then said sweet dreams and slept. So the little puddle that Pip had made did not make Posy make a lot of faces. Like sometimes when your friends pee in the classroom, you say, oh, what have you done? You've peed in your pants. No, don't do that. You can say, it was an accident. That's all right. But next time, be more careful. And next time when he had to have a wee, he always used the washroom. Okay? He never peed in his pants again because he knew that while playing, you cannot forget that you need to go to the washroom. Okay? All right. Okay, one question from you now. Do you think that Posy is a nice, kind, and generous friend? Did she help Pip? Did she help Pip? Do you like Posy? Yes or no? Give me a yes. And then you can write a comment if you want. Can I see the comments? Okay. And I also gave you a word when you need to pee. So that word is we, W-double-E. Yes? So what was the word? If you need to pee, you can say mom or dad or granny. I need to have a pee. I have a wee. Okay? Posy is a good friend and is of helping nature. Very nice. Okay, the spellings are P-O-S-Y. Posy is this mouse and Pip is this rabbit. Right? And I'm going on to my last story, Fluffy the lamb. And since we are short of time, so I'm going to do it fast. Okay? The last story is Fluffy the lamb. Fluffy the lamb is a very, very kind and helpful lamb. She's very soft and cuddly to touch children. You would like to cuddle her. And she's also very fun loving. The best part about Fluffy is that she makes everybody laugh the whole day. For example, she would go into the pigsty and do something, tell them jokes, that the pigs would start laughing and say, "Stop, Fluffy, our tummies are going to burst. You make us laugh so much." And Fluffy would giggle. And then she would go to the ducks in the pond, and the ducks in the pond would be swimming, and Fluffy would also go into the pond, and she would also start doing some splashing, and then the ducks would laugh too. "Oh, Fluffy, you're so nice, such a nice little lamb you are. You're always making us happy." And then Fluffy would go to the dogs in their kennel, and over there also she would do all sorts of things that the dogs would also laugh. She would tell them jokes, she would do some actions, she would do some silly stand ups, and the dogs would laugh. Then would go for the hens. The hens would also be very, very fond of Fluffy. So all the animals, including the hens and the sheep and the pigs, the horses, the cows, everybody loved Fluffy. But one day, it so happened that no one was talking to Fluffy. And Fluffy was very disappointed and annoyed, and she was thinking, "Why isn't anybody talking to me?" She first actually went to the dogs, and the dog said, "We are busy actually. Don't disturb us, Fluffy. Later on." Fluffy felt bad. Then she went to the pond and said, "Hey, Grouchy, listen, look at me at least." But Grouchy said, "I'm going with my duckling. Sorry, I'm busy. I'll catch you later." She also did not talk to Fluffy. Fluffy was almost in tears. Then she went to the cows and said, "Hey, let's do some funny things together." "Mm, no, not today. We are busy. Later." They also went away. Fluffy thought, "Everybody has gone so arrogant. They are not talking to me. What's wrong?" And finally, she went to Henry the horse. "Hey, Henry, look, see, I got a nice little joke for you. I want to tell you. Come here." "No, Fluffy, not now. Later, later, later." Fluffy thought for a while, and she was thinking that, what is wrong? Have they all changed? Don't they like me anymore? Don't I make them happy? Suddenly, she saw something. She saw Musa the mouse carrying something in a little box. And she said, "Hey, Musa, wait. Show me what you're taking. Later, Fluffy, I'm busy, I'm busy." And Musa ran away into the barn, the home of Fluffy. Fluffy doubted. She said, "Let me go and check. There must be something wrong. Why are they not speaking to me?" So she went into the barn, and she saw that Musa went inside and he shut the door. But there were some sounds coming. some noise coming of all of them: the cow, the duck, the dog, the horse, and the hens and cocks. So she thought, what are they doing in my home? As soon as she got in, there was a big cake! And everybody shouted, yelled, and screamed, Happy birthday, Fluffy! It was a surprise party for you. And Fluffy is awestruck looking at that three-layer cake: butterscotch, strawberry, and blueberry, topped with chocolate chips, children. Oh my God, such a big cake. Oh, so you all were fooling me, huh? You didn't want me to see the cake and the planning and surprise. Yes, said everybody, especially Bingo the dog. He said, actually, if we would have told you, the surprise would have not meant anything. That is why we were hiding. And we were also not talking to you to make you feel bad, so that in the end you would be surprised. But don't ever do that again to me. I was feeling so bad. I thought that I should leave the farm and go. No, 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 no. Never do that. Never do that. All right. So Fluffy and her friends had a lovely party. They danced and rejoiced and enjoyed and had a beautiful evening. And Fluffy the lamb was still everybody's favorite. All right. I'm going to take your leave now. I hope you like the stories. If you like the stories, keep adding your comments. Tell me which farm animal's name was Henry. Okay. If you have heard the story properly, which farm animal's name was Henry and which farm animal's name was Musa. Okay. I'm going to take your leave now, and I'll see you next Wednesday, same time. Bye. Take care.